welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn. We're so excited to hear from Becky about the project that she worked on with The Break and GoDaddy Registry. My role here is just to go over some quick housekeeping. So, if you have questions throughout the presentation, instead of having you all jump in and ask those questions while we're going, we're going to save them for the Q&A session at the end during the final 15 minutes. So if you do have questions during the presentation, please throw them in the chat. And if I can answer them, I will. And if not, we will save them for the end. The other thing on the housekeeping front is we'll have a QR code and a link in the chat at the end for feedback. We'd really appreciate it if you took 30 seconds to tell us about how the event went so that we can tailor future events to your needs. So I think that's all from my end, but I'm going to pass this along to Justin, who's head of accounts for The Break, to give a more thorough introductory into Becky's project. Yeah, take it away, Justin.
Hey, y'all. Thanks, Mac. Yeah, as she mentioned, I'm head of accounts at The Break, which for those that might be unfamiliar is EM's creative forward sister agency. We focus on helping clients with their branding, design, and activation needs, and believe tackling marketing challenges through the lens of creativity is a key to standing out from the competition, generating results, and making waves. And I've been managing the GoDaddy Registry account under the EM umbrella for many years now, and was really excited when our client Kristen engaged with The Break for some website redesigns earlier this year. That went so well that over the summer she reached out asking for help creating a sub-brand for their global block product, VIP DomainBlock. And this was on August 6th. And the only problem was she needed it by August 22nd, and the deadline had no wiggle room. Well, it so happens that The Break has been extremely fortunate to have worked with Becky Loring as a client over a number of years at a few different companies, and she's an incredible creative director and branding expert. And she and I have stayed very close over the years, and we'd both been hoping to find a chance to work together on the same side of the house now that she had started consulting. And so I immediately asked if she might be interested in a very exciting branding project with that just happened to have a wildly insane timeline. Luckily for me, for The Break, for GoDaddy Registry, she said yes. We started the project only 2 days later on the 8th and delivered 2 weeks later. So with that, I will turn it over to Becky so she can walk you through the visual identity creative process for this whirlwind of a project. Becky?
You, Justin, and thank you, Mac. And hi, everyone. Super excited to chat about this very cool project that I had the opportunity to be the creative director and designer for. So, little bit about me. I started my career as a graphic designer, but have been a creative director and a brand leader since 2015. My career has been split between agency and in-house roles across various business models. However, my focus for the last 6 years has been in B2B, SaaS and tech, leading and launching high impact brands and rebrands, building and scaling brands and creative teams, restructuring creative operations, and establishing and evolving performance cultures. And my AI adventure began shortly after ChatGPT launched, and I have since had the opportunity to introduce and implement multiple generative AI tools across various organizations in the EdTech, SaaS, internet services, and consumer goods space. So Mac, if you wouldn't mind taking us to the agenda. Thank you so much. Quick peek at the agenda here. We are going to take a closer look at the project details, the ready, set, go approach to accelerating the project timeline, outcomes and reflections, and Q&A at the end. Before we dive in, though, I do want to note that there was a messaging component to this project led by Robin Pfeiffer, who served as the brand messaging strategist and copywriter. However, today we're focusing on the visual identity and how creative strategy, AI technology, and systems thinking came together to meet our goals. All right, lots to cover. So here we go. As you've heard, GoDaddy Registry is the client, and they needed a brand identity and launch-ready visuals for their new sub-brand, VIP DomainBlock, a premium brand protection service for high-profile figures like actors, athletes, and musicians. And As you also heard Justin say, they needed it in just 2 weeks. Reason being for the expedited timeline, and this is something I know a lot of us have experienced probably 1,000 times. Opportunities present themselves often at the last minute, and it's up to us to support employers and clients in taking advantage of those opportunities as best as possible. Mac, if you would not mind, thank you. All right, now we're dancing. We're getting ready. And so to achieve the project objectives in the given timeline, everything needed to be streamlined, including the approach. So we'll be breaking this project into 3 phases: ready, set, go. For the first 2 phases, ready and set, it was essential that the agency and client team very quickly got aligned on scope, insights, delivery strategy, and the creative vision. Doing this quickly and upfront allowed us to minimize potential roadblocks that could jam us up once we reached the most demanding part of the project, and where unexpected pivots could make or break the deadline during production, or what we're calling the go phase. So let's take a closer look at phase 1, ready. What we're looking at here is the scope of the visual deliverables. Logos, there were 4 versions: a new logo, icon only, and 2 logo lockups, a look and feel for the new sub-brand, brand guidelines needed to be built, an image library created, and a modular social media template. Next, we also needed to quickly align on the priorities, the priority insights, and our strategy to deliver in the timeline. We received initial insights on via the brand brief, a high-level definition of the desired tone and personality, who our target audience was, competitor names, and special considerations. In this case, there needed to be alignment with DomainBlock, the other established brand in the family of brands. So with an understanding of the scope and the initial insights, we needed to then define how we were going to deliver. So we knew a photo shoot was out of the question, both from a budgetary and timeline perspective. Stock photography was a path, but we worried about its effectiveness with the target audience and the ability to really differentiate from competitors. So enter AI. This gave us a path to create bespoke imagery custom to the brand while balancing rapid delivery and quality creative. We also knew that this would have to be an iterative process requiring fast feedback loops, and very speedy turns on approvals were also going to be essential to hitting this deadline. With the strategy to deliver then defined, we moved into research. Here I use ChatGPT to assist in competitor and audience visual language evaluations. That provided me with a matrix of competitor colors, fonts, tone, layout, imagery, and more, while also enabling fast identification of visual and creative competitor overlap. So that ensured that, 1, I avoided overused elements, and 2, could quickly identify gaps. Same approach to audience research. I wanted to find out quickly what creative strategy they were employing and responding to. This provided me with a data set I needed in order to reflect the target audience's taste, values, and behaviors back at them, so I could bake faster rapport and trust building into the strategy. And then finally, to ensure we were ready, we had kickoff with the agency and the client team to gain any additional insights, um, to validate our research and align on our strategy to deliver the tools we were going to use, our turnaround times, all that good stuff. So with all this in place, it would be time then to move on to the next phase. But before we take a closer look at how we developed the vision, let's look at the AI tools used in this project. While one-stop solutions in the AI world are evolving every day, a multi application workflow is still needed in a lot of circumstances. So our AI stack for this project was ChatGPT, Midjourney, Flux Kontext, Krea, and Firefly via Photoshop's generative fill tool. And we've already touched on ChatGPT, how that was used in our research phase, but we'll get to the other programs before the end of this presentation so you can see how we use those as well. And we cannot talk about AI without AI governance. So what is AI governance? Simply put, it's the process standards and guardrails that help ensure AI systems and tools are safe and ethical. Next slide, please. So to ensure that we're using AI in a safe and ethical way, we need to make protecting employees and clients our first priority. And how we do this is making sure permissions and privacy settings are set up so you're not using your own content to train models. You're generating in private or stealth mode, not archiving chats. And best practice here is just to refer to the Tools Help Center to learn more about the privacy controls and how to set it for the maximum permissions and privacy settings. You also want to anonymize data by removing anything that directly identifies individuals. So replace identifiers with artificial ones that don't link back. So for example, don't use a company or a product's actual name. Use company A or product Z, etc. You do not want to use intellectual property in your prompts. And what I mean by this is you don't want to put in a prompt, make this look like a Disney character, or make this man look like Brad Pitt. Doing that just welcomes risk. You want to document your process and your prompts so you can be ready to show how you got from idea to finished product if needed. And learn to love the fine print. Understanding licensing and the rights your subscription level affords. You want to read terms and conditions, service agreements, basically what's ever linked in the footer. And this is just not applicable to AI. Any programs or service that you're licensing creative from, like stock photography, you should be reading the fine print there too. And it is also very important to note that we're talking about governance at a high level and a best practice perspective. Nothing that we're going to share today should be taken as legal advice, and it doesn't override AI governance policies your employers or clients may already have in place. If you're ever unsure, the best next step is to ask whether it's your legal, compliance, or IT teams. We will come back to AI governance later because it is very important. So, but for now, let's move on to vision. So this is the set phase of our project. And this is my favorite part of any brand project. This is where my imagination comes to life. Next slide, please. But that imagination needs to be inspired first. And my first step is to use data to inspire ideas because ideas without intention fall flat. For this project, I started with the priority insights collected from the brand brief, research, and kickoff. Now, with the data digested, and by now you're probably getting the sense that I like a good framework, I define look and feel for a brand over 3 steps: exploring, testing, and refining. First, when using AI to help assist me with exploration, I start by broadly defining composition keywords for initial image generation. And I highly, highly encourage falling down rabbit holes during this time. Be super curious and chase your favorite ideas. And before we dive into keywords and initial mid-journey prompts, I wanted to give you all some context. So normally I advocate 3 look and feel options: a conservative option, bold option, and one in between. But due to the time frame, we presented 2 options for the client to choose. And the examples that we're going to look at over the next few slides are focused on option 1. So going back to the approach of, or how I approach exploration, I start with broadly defining composition keywords inspired by our data. In this case, keywords like digital, tech forward, modern, and cinematic came to the surface. Now, this idea that we're looking at is one idea that I played with, and we're looking at the prompt I created and a couple Midjourney images that were returned from that prompt. Again, this is broad. We're using keywords while also generally defining subject details, composition, and style. Now, kind of a side note here too, if you want your images to feel professional and realistic, you'll have more success if you prompt for that. Learn keywords, or sometimes called tokens, that return images that align with your vision. Learn camera and film techniques. And you don't have to have a photography background for this. If you have a favorite movie or photograph, be curious. Use Google, ChatGPT, whatever, to learn what camera was used on that, or to film that movie, or to take that photograph. Was it shot on digital or film? If film, what processing techniques did they use? Then take what you learned and put that in your prompt. That is how you get more and more realistic prompts. Um, Here's another idea that I played with. The brand does live in a digital space. So for this idea, I wanted to play with elements that visually communicate technology while keeping it in the editorial and cinematic space, but avoids tech tropes that a lot of software and tech companies fall into. So on to step two, let's test our ideas. In order for the idea to be sound and worthy of refinement, we need to make sure that it aligns with GlobalBlock, appeals to the target audience, differentiates from competitors, allows for visual flexibility, and aligns to the desired tone. So if we go back to our first idea for option one, is there GlobalBlock alignment? We want modern and clean, but this may be a little too minimalistic. Red also doesn't really work for a number of reasons. Is there audience appeal? This is editorial, but it's a little too fashion leaning. It definitely differentiates from competitors. And in square format, this may work, but in landscape, that may give us too much negative space. So visual flexibility may be a challenge. And neutral on the tone alignment. Modern and clean, yes. Secure and tech forward, eh. And what about our second option for, sorry, our second idea for option one? Um, our emojis are a little bit more optimistic here. This idea is generally definitely closer to passing the test. So we're going to run with this idea. So finally, we need to refine, improve on the idea until you can answer yes to all of the questions. So where this idea currently is, does it have GlobalBlock alignment? We're getting there, but not quite. We still have some work to do. Does it appeal to the audience? We're definitely on the right track, but we need to dig deeper. Do we differentiate from competitors? Yes. This looks nothing like our competitors and avoids what they overuse and where they overlap. Does this allow for visual flexibility? We're on the right track. I can see how we can build this into composition to work in different orientations and outputs. And is it aligned to the desired tone? Again, we're on the right track. So once we define, hey, where do we need to make changes? Where are we going in the right direction? It's time to get really specific. So going back to the data during kickoff, we discussed the buying journey and who was part of the buying committee. This led to defining imagery needs. Who and what do we need to visually represent? So 3 different imagery personas emerged. VIPs, they're the ones at risk and need protection. Visually, I represented the risk to their image, reputation, and brand in the digital space using double exposure effects and digital fragments. Middle column, we have our target audience, the celebrity and brand managers, anyone who is responsible for keeping the VIPs safe and protecting their identity online. We call them the protectors, visually represented as calm, poised, and confident. Well, the speed of the digital world happens around them. They are the calm in the storm. And finally, our brand, VIP domain block. What our protectors need in order to keep the VIPs safe. Visually represented with conceptual tech forward art. The fingerprint and lock imagery is used here to show global protection and security while trusted professionals work in the background to give our audience a new standard in premium brand protection. So now let's take a look at our refined Midjourney prompt. You'll see in this example, we're really getting into the nitty gritty of the details now. We're defining the subject and the core description, focal details, texture, design elements, color palette, mood, technical details, and render quality. So taking another look now at our image grid, stylistically, we need to also be able to achieve consistency regardless of character and setting. Different AI tools have different approaches to address this. For example, in Midjourney, you can use an image as your style reference, create mood boards with consistently styled images that you can then reference in your prompt. And you can always reuse parts of your prompt to inform other compositions. So now we have explored, tested, and we've refined our option one. So let's rinse and repeat for option two. Um, Option two, again, we're going to explore some ideas. We're going to pick our favorites. We're going to test them, and then we are going to refine them. And our winner is option two. And when we asked for the client's feedback on how we approach the visual strategy, Kristen Johnson, global marketing and brand at global marketing and brand at GoDaddy Registry, said, I was in awe of the quality of the photography and how unique everything looked right from the start. What stood out to me most was the range of options and color palettes we had to choose from. It really showed how adaptable AI can be, but also how much skill it takes to rein it in and make it cohesive. So, all right, we're set. We've got our vision. Final phase, go. Getting into production. No, sorry. Because when an organization says they're AI first, that doesn't always include generative AI. Um, After we received approval on the vision, option two, a legal flag that we could not use Midjourney. So, oh no, like, what do we do now? So remember I said we would come back to this, and here we are. Let's talk about AI governance again. Because our AI governance is on point. We're reading the fine print, we're documenting, anonymizing data, all the good stuff. We were able to respond with full transparency. Mac, if you would not mind moving to the next one. And we could provide our prompt frameworks and exact prompts used to create the image, all the images. The outcome, we made a case for Midjourney use while also showing that we are doing everything in our power to use this technology safely and ethically. And in 24 hours, that no turned into a confirmation that Midjourney is approved for this project. And can't say this enough. We're talking about governance from a high level best practice perspective. Nothing shared today should be taken as legal advice, and it doesn't override the AI governance policies your employer or clients may already have in place. If you're ever unsure, the best next step is to ask whether it's your legal compliance or IT teams. And from the client's perspective, again, let's hear from Kristen Johnson. Prompts are everything. The quality of your prompts determines not just the creative output, but how responsibly and compliantly you're using AI. And honestly, that lesson applies across the board, whether you're working with imagery, copy, or data analysis. And I could not have said that better myself. You should be using any creative tool responsibly and compliantly. This is not a new concept for AI. So now that we've gotten our okay for Midjourney, we're for sure ready to cruise into production. And the pyramid graphic that we're looking at roughly illustrates the distribution of work between our ready, set, go phases. So ready equated to 14% of my total project time, set 18%, and go a whopping 68% of my total production time. And when we dig into the distribution of work by deliverable, 70% of my production time was on the AI image library, with 30% spent on all other visual deliverables combined. And if you're confused why the AI image library took the majority of the production time, you may be under the magic button impression. This is something that graphic designers are going to understand deep in their bones. Just like hearing someone say, can't you just Photoshop it, and then expecting a 5-minute turn, and how that sends chills down our spine. The assumption that AI is purely pushing a button and things just happen, you're going to get the same response. That's not how that works. To produce quality images with AI that look good digitally, but could also be printed on something like a billboard, it requires a multi-application workflow. So let's break down an image and just take a closer look at what that looks like. So, like the output from a traditional photo shoot, you don't just take a raw image from a camera and call it final. The image needs to be brought into an application or two before it's ready to use. And same goes for generated images. And like the outputs from a traditional photo shoot, some image generations are near ready. They might just need light modification and resolution upscaling, like the image we're looking at now. While, like we're going to see on the next slide here, others require a heavier hand, especially if we want to change detail like an item of clothing, hairstyle, or facial expression. And Mac, yeah, thank you. There we go. So this is an example of an image where we changed quite a lot of things like hairstyle, clothing, and facial expression. Um, and another challenge you could run into, and one that I did, is even when prompted with photorealism tokens and using settings designed for realistic results, sometimes style definitions overrode these instructions. And this is a good example of that. You can see here how our subject came out quite stylized and looking generated. So what do you do if you like an overall composition, but heavier modifications are needed to get from original generation to final version? This is where understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the different programs will come in handy to allow you to move quickly. So circling back to the example, let's take a look how we got from the original Midjourney generation to the final. So in the next slide, you'll see I used Flux Kontext to modify specific details of the subject. I wanted her looking at the camera. I wanted her head tilted down a little bit, changing hair color. I wanted her to be in a jacket that I would purchase myself that was a similar color to the brand identity. And you can use programs like Flux Kontext to make those refinements. But quality and resolution is still not where I want to be. So another program is needed to upscale that resolution. And so I used Krea to upscale from below HD to Ultra HD. And finally, Photoshop is where I bring it all together and finalize that image. And as you can see, this workflow still requires a creative eye and a technically proficient hand, especially because you're gonna encounter some weirdness. Top left, no big deal, it's just an eye made out of teeth. Top right, the upper lip is made out of hair, so super fun. Bottom left, very weird looking basketball, and bottom right, fingers, hands, legs, feet. Pay extra attention to these. If you're going to get any hallucinations in your images, it'll be here. So if you plan for weirdness, you want to also plan on how to address it. Now you might be saying, wow, way more work than I thought. Why even go this route? So for funsies, I had a traditional production company, friends who have full transparency that I'm using information like this to estimate what it would cost to produce the same 10 images without AI. Timeline, 8 to 11 weeks, and cost from 50 to 65,000. AI production, 17 days, planning through finalization, and in the client's budget. Mac, if you would know my thank you. So this project illustrates how AI created access where budgets and timelines didn't allow for traditional methods. Without generative AI, there would have been no bespoke imagery, only stock. AI made something possible that otherwise would not exist. And it's not about replacing or eliminating traditional methods. Things like photo shoots and video shoots are going to remain the gold standard. AI imagery fills a gap between stock and full production and gives clients custom, fast, on brand assets where they previously would have to have settled for stock. And this project, it also shows what's possible when creative strategy, technology, and systems thinking comes together. So helping the client visualize concepts in a high fidelity way led to 12 to 24-hour approvals. The client team was equipped with what they needed for a successful rollout. Launch was on schedule and met with confidence, excited, and my most very favorite thing, a happy client. So one more time from Kristen Johnson, the end result was a completely polished, one-of-a-kind brand identity that speaks directly to our target audience. The alignment between the creative execution, the audience targeting, and where the ads are showing couldn't be stronger. The brand feels sophisticated, but still current and trendy. The visual tells a story. You look at them and immediately want to learn more. So, is AI a magic button? Oh, hard no. I've seen great results like this project. Another implementation I led showed a 70% asset velocity gain just after 3 months. However, it needs careful implementation and human guidance to be successful. Next, does AI replace human creativity? No, AI lacks lived experience, emotion, and context, the things that make creativity meaningful. And thinking is hard. Can't AI just do it for me? That's an idea, but nope. Letting idea do all the thinking is like hiring a trainer and watching them do push-ups. Entertaining if that's your thing, but you don't get any stronger. AI is a tool. It speeds up research, sparks ideas, and helps you see new angles. But you still need to come to the table with the same skills other creative tools require to successfully use them. Your creativity, intuition, critical thinking, ethical reasoning, empathy, and strategic direction. Okay, well, this is the last slide. And so big thank yous to the project team, Justin, head of accounts, who you met earlier at, of the break, and Robin Pfeiffer, the brand messaging strategist and copywriter. massive round of applause for like the coolest clients around. GoDaddy Registry, a world leading provider of domain name registry services. Our GoDaddy friends, Kristen Johnson, global marketing and brand, and Alex Perry, senior graphic designer. Massive thank you for your stellar partnership. Not only did it drive the success of the project, but made this project super duper fun. And thank you everybody here today watching this and watching on demand. I'd love to connect with you in LinkedIn. And please also be sure to scan the QR code to submit your feedback so programming like this keeps coming your way. So, sounds like it's a question and answer time now.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you so much, Becky. That was awesome. And thank you for the run through. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, that was fabulous. We did have questions come into the chat, so I
Yeah.
figure we'll just get into those. So
Okay.
one came in earlier when you were going over the scenarios. We were wondering, how did you test the scenarios? And I think that came from Carrie. Carrie, if you have any context that you'd want to add to that question, feel free to
Yeah, I
jump
just
in. We
was,
can
I was
unmute you.
thinking about, yeah, I mean, I've managed creative multiple times over my career, and it's like, so I'm just curious, like, were you just getting feedback and testing with the client, or were you also getting consumer feedback? So it was just, sorry about my voice, I'm struggling with the flu. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, just was curious more to learn about that portion of the work that helped you get to the decision making.
yeah. So, because the timeline was so quick, we did have to prioritize insights. And so we really focused on value prop, audience, like who were the decision makers, what was the buying committee. And so during that process, as part of the need to move fast, we had identified, hey, we need really quick, fast turnarounds. We need feedback loops. And so there was a constant stream of back and forth of,
Mm,
hey, like, this is what we're thinking. Does this align with your thinking? Back and forth. And, a lot of times, both Kristen and Alex could get us feedback back in just like 15 minutes. And we were then able to like pivot quickly and go, okay, maybe we need to leave this thing alone and we got to move on to the next one.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so testing directly with the client, getting their feedback.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this one is sort of a curiosity. How long does it take AI to generate some of these images? Like yeah, what is minutes, hours?
So Midjourney is my favorite tool to explore in. It's stylistically just its outputs, it's my favorite. So I like doing my exploration in Midjourney. So really the longest time is writing a prompt. There's a lot of detail that goes into that, but once you put in the prompt, I want to say it's 45 seconds that it returns 4 different images that aligns with your prompt. Then from there, you can say, hey, I really like this Midjourney. Let's make these changes, or you give me some random stuff, or give me something that's a little bit closer to this. So you can then start to play with it and tweak it. But as you bring these things into the different programs, they may have a little bit longer, but I mean, if something takes longer than 3 minutes, there might be a server issue going on. It's ridiculously fast.
Wow. Yeah, that seems remarkably fast.
Yeah, I know, it is.
On the same note, how did you learn how to prompt for design? So, like, I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error that gets you to the success that you've had. What was your process of learning it and how long did that take you?
Yeah, so it's I am someone who learns by doing. I would much rather get into like the mud and get dirty than someone tell me what it's like to get dirty. And so I went in there and I played and I failed and saw what worked and saw what didn't. But like at the end of the day, too, and like if you are a director or you are giving anybody instructions to create something that is visual, you've got to articulate your vision and you have to be able to give those instructions. It really is that same mechanism when you are using AI and coming up with these prompts. So it is, if you're not like for graphic designers out there, very visual led, what I would suggest is thinking through what makes up a composition. It really is that. Like if you've got that picture in your head and it is a woman with red hair, green eyes, where, like think through what that is, write all that information down and start playing with it. I also highly recommend going to all the knowledge bases for these programs. Different programs have different strengths, but they usually tell you how to frame this stuff to get what you are, imagining back easier.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like that is my most taxing part of using AI is mostly I don't know how to communicate my own thoughts. So, cheers to you for being able to do it.
It is, I mean, it takes practice. And I have been directing for over 10 years now. And it's still like when you're thinking down to the texture of somebody's skin, you don't usually think at that level. And so those of you out there that love every single little granular detail, you're gonna love this.
Yeah, all of the oriented people can all come in and live this life.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so I have another one for you. How many AI tools have you trialed? How many are you using consistently? And how exactly do you think through and choose the proper tech stack for any specific project?
Oh man,
That's a big one.
it's a big one. It's such an important question though. I might need you to repeat some of that, but I will try to
We can
remember.
certainly go one at a time. How many AI tools have you trialed to
Oh
start
gosh.
us off?
Okay. So I have trialed more than 30. Um, eh, many, 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 because if we go back to kind of like the one AI solution, it doesn't like it may exist for some other aspects, but like if you want like photo shoot quality, like high resolution images, there are strengths and weaknesses on the different programs. And so it was a lot of trial and error using these different programs to see what was strong at what and understanding like, hey, there's some tools up there that all they do is upscale, like up to 20,000 by something 300 DPI. And it's going, all right, well, of that, I'm going to test out maybe the top. And it's tough. There's no ranking system. I would highly recommend going on LinkedIn, Instagram, hashtag generative AI, hashtag creative direction, emerging technology. There was a lot of folks talking about this stuff and testing it. That is where I found a lot of my direction. And it's where I keep a pulse on all the updates because that's mind blowing too, how quickly this stuff is updating. So yeah, tested a lot. What I landed on is or are the programs that gave me the most consistent results. Right now, my favorite tech stack is what we just went through. Midjourney, Flux, Krea, give it a hug in Photoshop. That's kind of my favorite, but there's other ones that are coming. Nano Banana, came out recently. That's been really fun to play with. There's also Seed Dream, I believe it's called by ByteDance. That also has some like wild kind of things like skin texture, accurate digits, like way better in some instances than other things. Same when you get into the video space. Different things do things differently. If you are a filmmaker, you might want to go to Runway. If you are wanting more social media content, your Pikas and your Luma Dream machines might be better for that. So it's just kind of like, hey, do I get HubSpot over Salesforce over, whatever. It's each thing kind of does a different thing and really, really play. I'm going to say the whole rabbit hole thing again. Be curious and go down rabbit holes. And I think I got two of three. Are
I
we?
feel like you've gotten them all because the last question would have been how exactly do you think through and choose the proper tech
Mm.
stack? And it sounds like it changes depending on if a new tool comes in and takes out the other ones. But it sounds like your top 4 or 5 there are going into your projects right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say though, it also depends on client need. So if somebody needs brand aligned messaging, that is a whole different tech stack than something like this. If a client doesn't want photo shoot quality stuff that can be printed large format, that's a way different workflow as well. So um I can't say that there is a blanket that you can put on and say, this is where I'm going to plug and play everywhere. I really think you have to sit, hear what the challenges are and where they are now and where they want to be in the future, and then put a solution together. And I think that's also why I've tested 30, 40 and spend an insane amount of money on my subscriptions every month.
Well, I think we're lucky you do that
Yeah.
because now we get all of the information out of you. Haha.
Yeah.
On that note, we did have another question come in. Have you experimented with Artlist? I think that's how I'm supposed to say it. And if so, do you know how it compares to Midjourney?
Ooh, you know what? I have not. That is one that I know I have a post-it note around here somewhere that I'm writing down right now.
Okay, you've got some hot weekend plans.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And then I know that you mentioned that you've been going down like TikTok and Instagram to sort of find out what other creatives are using. Is there anything else you look to get inspiration? Like, is there any news article websites that you like to like to follow that we might also follow?
Yeah, so I Creative Eyes AI, these are the first folks I started following, and I'm pretty sure they do a live stream every day. Um, so I definitely recommend those folks. I would also go and follow all of these folks. Follow all the software themselves because they're constantly updating and they're constantly putting tips and tricks up. And as you consume more of this information, as we know, the algorithms will start serving this up. I It's tough. The news outlet thing is kind of hard. You've got a lot of opinions kind of in the mix, but Harvard Law Review actually is a really good place to go.
Wow. Okay, that good take. Um, yeah, so we did just have another question come into the chat, but it has to do with um IP ownership and contractual agreements with your clients. And I think this is when we say, yeah, for this session's focus on process and practical use, for ethics and legal questions, consult your organization's governance team. Um, Recommended sources are NIST AI Risk Management Framework and Harvard Law Review. So
Yeah,
thanks for the question, Don, but
yeah,
I
thank
think we just dodged it successfully.
you.
Um,
Yeah, make best like this stuff changes all the time. It is a gray area. It can get really muddy really fast. Be lock arm in arm with your legal and IT teams. Be best friends with them. I don't know, give them cupcakes or something. But yeah, best thing you can do is to talk with those folks.
Definitely. All right, so another one for you. What kind of creative follow-on projects would have you most excited to slash be best suited for the brand deliverables you created during this project? I'm wondering about extensionability. Am I saying that right, Justin? Help me.
Extensibility.
Extensibility. And if, how, or what you've built there here with AI impacts what could come next. A lot of words there.
Yes, I'm just like, the specific set of deliverables that you created here, or the process through which you built them, are there impacts on how those might be leveraged in other creative projects, different use cases? Are they best suited, like, can someone take those and use them in a video, or, maybe static creative campaigns? Like, is there some way beyond the ads and brand deliverables that you created that you could see being like coming next and easily utilizing what you created? I just didn't know if there's any kind of specifics around how that works, or what type of long tail they might have.
Yeah. I mean, so, if you think about prompts, first of all, it kind of becomes a recipe that's unique for that project. And so you provide those as well if that is something that the clients want and they want to run with that. Um, they have their recipe, but like taking this project as an example, we had 10 library images. The big work was up front creating those, but then um if we go back to the little video where they kind of morphed into each other, you can take those assets, and then the sky's kind of the limit of how you can mix and match them in AI. So maybe 70% of my time was done or was spent creating those images, but then it took 15 minutes to create a 20-second video that could be used across platforms, websites. You can bring them into explainer videos. I mean, you can take those assets and use other AI programs to massively expand on those. Does that answer the question, Justin? Yeah.
Yes.
Yay!
Thank you. I have sort of a fun one, more of an opinion question for you. So like you've used 30 tools right now. That's an incredible amount of user testing. If you were to develop your perfect AI tool for these purposes, are there any things that like in your dream world these engineers would put into the product to make it better for you, like to create your perfect tool?
Ooh, that's such a good question. If somebody can give me a hand without 7 fingers on it, or an eye with teeth in it, like I struggle with complex, like you saw kind of that prompt, right? I like some complex layouts. And the more complex you get, sometimes the more weirdness and hallucinations happen. So a program that is text-based, that is more conversational, that can do that without, like I said, giving me, a 10-fingered hand or 3 legs, I would be super happy with that. I'd also love, because, we walked through that multi-application workflow, I would love to be able to take a composition to then say in that same program, okay, now, and this is kind of getting there, now change their eyes and their hair color and their race and their this and their that within that same program. Then let me export it at 20,000 by 20,000 pixels. So something that gets closer to that one stop like solution, that would be amazing. Because I want to add too, when you use all these programs, the output is all those files. You need naming conventions, you need folder structures, you need the ops to support that. And if you're creating 4 times the images or videos that you would normally, your cloud service needs to also be able to support that volume of assets. So lots to consider.
Yeah, great answer. And hopefully a design or an engineering team. Here's
Yeah,
your answer.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't have any more questions in my list, but if anybody has a question now, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in if you have any questions for Becky. In the meantime, I also want to soft sell you on please fill out the feedback form.
Yes.
That would make my life so great, and that would bring you content that is perfect for what you want to learn about in the future. So thank you, everyone.
Hey Becky, I actually have a question.
Oh,
And-
well, hi! I recognize that voice.
And I don't think you answered this, so I apologize if you did, but in terms of once your work was complete with this particular project and you hand off the assets because it's part of their like new branding, did you have to like provide training to team members or anything in regards to future writing of prompts and stuff to keep within the brand? You know what I mean? Like if they want to keep generating assets, is that a part of the brand guide now? I guess is my question.
Yeah, so yeah, in the brand guide, there is actually a page that shows like, hey, best practices for prompts, and if you're going to generate AI, and then also, okay, if you don't have access or you're outsourcing someplace that doesn't have an access,
Mhm.
this is how you can achieve that same look using stock photography. Like
Like the
bring that
fallback.
into
Yeah.
Photoshop. Here's how you color correct it, things of that nature.
Okay.
But in this particular instance, GoDaddy Registry is still in their AI evolution. However, they do still have time with me to provide training on this. And so, yeah, this is something with every one of these that I've done. Training is essential because a lot of the teams, this is their first time
Mhm.
experiencing this, and you do want to set them up for success.
Okay. No, I assumed as much, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I learned it from watching you, Lindsay.
Sure, sure.
All right, any
Uh,
other questions?
I'm curious, you're trying out so many things all the time. What's got your attention these days that you're trying to skills or tools you're trying to develop in this space? What are you learning right now?
I have jumped back and forth with this, but I I love audio software. So I am a musician who is terrible at music. Okay, like I want to be a singer, I want to learn every instrument, but I don't know. There's a block that I've not been able to pick it up. I've taken so many lessons. So Suno, Suno, um is an AI music program, and I can take the lyrics that I've been writing for years and I can turn them into songs. And it is so much fun. It's got me also just looking at music that I would have never looked at in the past. I think that the other day I put together blues, folk, flamenco, and New Orleans funeral band marching or something. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And so that's really got my creative juices flowing. And it's letting me live out my rock star dreams.
We need to hear that. We need a link to that song. I don't even know how to comprehend that. Ah, all right. Any other questions, anyone? Incredible.
Hey, sorry, this is Alex. I just wanted to thank Becky. Like, thank you so much for working on this for us. You did an amazing job. I've been having so much fun creating marketing materials with your images, and I mean, I just love it. It look amazing. I just wanted to
Oh,
give you props, and it was wonderful working with you.
oh, you too, Alex. Thank you. And I'm glad that you're having fun. Everything I've seen looks amazing too. So kudos, wonderful job. Um, I hope we all get a chance to play again soon.
I agree. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Awesome. Then I think that is the end of everything. But thank you everyone for joining us. It was so much fun. And thank you, Becky. It was awesome. And Justin. Yeah, great work, guys.
Yay. Yay, everybody. Yes.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.